Is it okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
that's right.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for again joining in after lunch. So I will try to make it as less boring as possible so that you don't sleep after lunch. It's very important. Okay. So I know Professor Ramarao gave me a long list to talk about regarding this session, but I try to make it brief. The title only, not the talk. Title only. I just mentioned it. Why should I write and publish? To be very simple, so that it conveys to us everything. So before I move on to talk about something about publications, some of the insights and what we look into, the reviewers, and what should you follow when you are publishing, because all of us are into publishing business. It's not only me and Professor Ramarao, but all of you who are there as participants. I'm sure some point or the other, you all are part of publishing, because this is very important for us for in many different ways. So since I just belong to the IEEE GRSS, so I'll just give you two slides which talks about the IEEE. So all of you know about it, but as to tell you that it's the world largest technical professional organizations, and members around 160 countries around the globe. It had more than 100 peer-reviewed journals and several annual conferences. Some of them are flagship conferences of different societies. You have different membership grades, starting from students and of course to the fellow members, who are the final category of memberships, and that's very prestigious. So that's the fellow member, and then there are honorary members and life members and so on. So among all the 39 societies which you have in IEEE, under IEEE, geoscience and remote sensing is one of them, as it is highlighted over here. There are other societies, and some of the societies are of course related. They are working together, joint, and so on and so forth. So it's a very vibrant community in IEEE of all the societies. And with that, I move on to the outline of what I'll be talking about today, the preliminaries of the background of publishing, authoring for IEEE journals, conferences, writing papers, publishing ethics, which is very, very important. Talk about the editorial process, what goes on into it, because most of you may not know what is there behind the scene, because you send a paper and you then wait for it to be accepted. That's it. So that's how we perceive. I mean, it's not only you, it's me too. We send a paper and say, well, it should be accepted. That's the final goal. So, but what goes on behind the things is we need to look into the editorial process, and we'll have some summary and some questions. So I would be very happy so that we can have more interaction in this session, because this is not only I'll be talking about, but I would like to get your feedback. Because as an editor-in-chief, I'm always looking for ideas to improve, not only in, of course, the quality of publications, but also the process. Some of you I know are send a paper and it gets rejected, it gets delayed in the review process, and you are very, very unhappy with the process, and you are very unhappy with me. Okay, I know I take all the blame on me. I know it happens, and well, rejection we don't like, but well, it's a part of the game. I too get a lot of rejections from my own journal, to tell you the truth. But well, we all are there in the same business. It's just that I am managing that journal. So why does one publish? Very simple question, which we always try to ask, is that, well, of course, shared our discoveries and knowledge, gain prestige. Well, prestige in whatever form it is for you. It may vary, of course. Uh, it's requirement for some programs, maybe for a, I don't know, for a doctoral degree, or some of the programs in which people are enrolled. It is a requirement, because if you do not have a publication in a journal, you will not get a degree. So it's a requirement, of course. And well, it is utilized for our assessments, being in in an academic institution. It is used for our assessment, promotions, and careers. It is for all of us. We are all either in a research domain, in research institutes, or in national labs, in academic institution like IIT and IIST. So we are assessed by our uh, our publications. There are certain secondary benefits which are also very important to understand. Is that when you write, when you are writing, it promotes better understanding. So you are trying to put everything in a logical manner. So it's a logical organization, and that requires clarity of thought. Because why? Because I do a research, I do it on my computer. I have some program somewhere here and there. I have some notes written down on my register somewhere over, part of it over here, part of it at my home. I write it today, I write it after 10 days, and so it's all over the place. So when it is time to actually show my work to my peers or to the audience or whomever, I don't have it with me. So when you are writing a paper, I have this logical organization. It is at one place, and also it's a clarity, because if you understand your paper, well, that's good, but it doesn't serve the purpose. If I'm writing a paper, Professor Rao should understand it, and vice versa. Otherwise, if I understand my paper, he understands his paper, well, it is good, but what is the use? There's no use at all. So there should be a clarity in your thought process, because there is an audience who will be reading your stuff and will be trying to understand it, implement it, and so on and so forth. And the final point is, it often spurs new ideas, because you are writing a paper, you have done some work, and when you can think of sometime, wow, something has come up, and this could be my next research work or my next paper or my next collaboration or something like that. It gives kind of new ideas can come up. And it happens to me and my students all the time. I always tell them, don't just close your ears and eyes and write. No, that is not the way. Concentrate. That's the different thing. Concentrating is different, is not closing your eyes and closing your ears and just typing it. No, no, no. Think about when you are writing, because maybe you have not thought about a process. You have some implementation, you have some equation, some theory, but maybe that can lead to something else in your next work. So this is very important. You have to always have that constant thinking power, and that is when you are writing. You are writing your own journal paper, your own research, or you are collaborating with your students, your peers, or any other collaborator researcher. It's always the same. What are the guide for writing a technical paper? So just put down the points. So the guide is why and where to publish. It's a very, very important question. I always find it very important. Why and where to publish? Why? Well, we have seen a little bit of it, but where to publish? There are so many journals out there, not only IEEE, of course, there are so many publishing houses. You have Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, many, many more. Where do you want to publish? It's a question mark. I get this question from some authors, like, I have done some work. Do you think it is okay to send it to GRSL? Well, my answer always is not yes. My answer always is that, do you think it qualifies to be there within the scope and so on? So it is up to you to think. It's not up to me to tell you where to publish. Choose an audience and pick up journal. You need to choose an audience. I am working in a domain of SAR remote sensing. So I would like to pick my audience who are, of course, in remote sensing, general, the upper umbrella. But then the subcategories would be people working in SAR, also maybe general microwave, then maybe SAR, and so on. So I need to find out my audience. If I go on and submit my journal in my paper in a journal which talks about, I don't know, it's a journal which deals with something else, well, maybe I will not be able to get anything out of it, because who will be reading my paper? Maybe it is published. Maybe it is published. But even if it is published, who is reading it? There's no audience. Your paper will be sitting idle. You will have one extra paper in your CV. That's fine. You get a promotion, but no one is reading it. I mean, what is the need? I mean, you have worked a lot. You have spent your time doing research, writing it, but you need people to read it, appreciate it, come back to you, criticize it, of course, also. Well, this may not work, this may not this, and then it is good. So you have to find the audience and pick a journal. Paper structure, you need to understand the structure, because I would tell you that all journals, I mean, all publishing houses, for example, IEEE has many others. Of course, there are so many societies, so many journals are there. Elsevier, of course, there are so many journals are there in different topics. All of them have a different structure. If you read the paper, they have different structures. So you have to follow the structure of that particular journal in which you are sending. Of course, there is a common framework for, let's say, for all of them, but there are differences here and there. You have to be very, very careful with that. If you are not careful with that, the editor-in-chief or the others will think, well, you are simply careless. I mean, you don't care about all these things. But this is not good. This is ethically, professionally is not good. So think about the structure. How will you present it? Conform to ethics, very, very important. I mean, there are certain publication ethics which we should all follow. And I see a lot of people doing some work which are non-ethical kind of thing, which should be absolutely a no in publication. You cannot, you have to be ethical. I will talk about that more in details. This is very important for me as an editor-in-chief, and also, of course, as a professor, and of course as a teacher also. Writing the paper and having it proofed, because it is also important. I write it, and I think this is the best, of course, of all papers, because I wrote it, so I send it to a journal, and I get a rejection saying, well, this is awful, because, well, I need to prove that someone has to read my work. So you have to have write it, and someone has to read the paper. If it is from, of course, I do it in this way. I have it proved by someone in the field who is working in my field, who is my colleague and a collaborator, and I get some criticism, but I also make it read to someone who is not from the field at all. I wrote, so to understand that if someone new is reading, someone who is not in the field at all, is he or she able to read it? I mean, understand it at least, maybe not 100%, but at least 70% of it. Very important, at least to get that idea also, that if you're not restricting it to someone, because anyone can pick the paper and read. And the idea is that everyone should appreciate it. So to get that everyone to appreciate, you need to get it proved. That's very important. Submit the paper, of course, to the journal, and possibly, if possible, sometimes you will interact. Well, not always, but this is not always. But for example, if it is there, you can talk about that, what's going on with my paper, and just to understand the situation, the status. It is, well, don't put too much burden on the EIC, but at least sometimes you can be a little bit friendly and polite and way of asking it. So this is the interaction, so that people know, well, you are serious about your work, you are serious about publication and so on. About publishing. So what should one publish? Well, you have to publish something novel, of course. A novel scientific content. That's very important. How? This novel scientific content which you are publishing should be a proper placement in the scientific literature. Because you have to go through the literature. What do? You go through the literature. You try to find out what's going on today, the state of the art, possibly, and what has been done previously. And you try to find out, even if people have done it, I don't know, 10 years ago, people are still doing it something on the same topic. So that means they are trying to fill up some of the gaps, some of them, 1, 2, or many. So that's why there's a research going on. Where do you place your work? You need to understand that, because you're interacting with the community. You cannot say like this. You cannot say, 1, this research was done by XYZ in 1960. 2, this research was done in 1962 by ABC. 3, 9, it's this, and you go on putting it from 60 to 2020, blah, 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 and then at the end you put your thing. What are you doing? You are only reporting. You are not a reporter. You are writing your research. So there is a difference between reporting and you are placing it to the scientific content. So you have to mention, okay, this has done this work, and there was the gap, or this was filled by the successive work, and so on and so forth. And so if you can comment about them, good. But when you comment about them, be careful, because you are commenting on someone's work which is published. So you need to be carefully analyze them, read it, understand it, put them in your own words, and then put it. And where you now need to put your uh, scientific content within that context. So it's very important how are you putting it in the proper placement in the scientific content. Accurate and complete reference. You cannot say, well, I am lazy. I have seen 10 of them. It's okay. I will just put 10. No, no, no. It's totally not correct. It doesn't mean that 10 is a number. So maybe there are 50 of them and you have just read 10 of them. Well, this is not correct. Some people come also with this, that, well, this is the letters, but I cannot put references like 20, 30. I understand. That's very important. But among them, you have to find out which one is very, very closest to your one, the relevant one. If you have a other journal, which is not a letters, or a other journal, maybe over there you can little bit go a bit more with the references. So it is up to you. You have to think that when you are placing your research, if it is a letter like a GRSL, you maybe do not have much space, maybe, I don't know, 6, 7, maximum of 10, let's say. If you have to place those 10, then you have to see the closest one, the closest proximity to your work. And also that should not be too old, of course. You have done you're publishing a paper in 2020 sending, and all your references are in 70s and 75. Does it make any sense? Not so much, because people have done other work, research also, which has come after that. So there is no latest. So you need to properly place that. That's very important. And very important is avoid citing literally parts of other works. Someone has written sentences, something, 2, 3 last sentences, and you can think, well, it is okay to pick up those and put it in mind. No, 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 don't do that. This is not correct. Because imagine put yourself in that place. There was a thought process when you have made those sentences. When you put that sentence, there was a thought process in it. So you have spent some time, a thought process for then, and then that sentence or that paragraph was written. I go and I just copy that portion and put it in mind. I mean, will you feel okay with that? I'm sure not. So the same way, the other way around. So don't put literally parts of other people's work in it. Avoid. Okay, so don't. It's not very good. Sound and accurate theoretical algorithms, approach algorithms or application scales. So that should be very sound in your thing. The next one is very important, is reproducible examples. So I have just highlighted over here, reproducible. And this is what I am talking a lot these days. Reproducible examples are very, very important, because I have done a work, something very sophisticated something, and I have it in my paper, and well, I have my algorithms with me, I have my codes with me, I have my data with me, and no one knows if it will be working on others also or not. It's not progressing the science. So to progress science, it has to be reproducible. Someone should be able to utilize the same data, same algorithms, and it should work on their data sets. It should also be something like someone should take the data set and the same algorithm, and they can also produce the same thing as what you have produced. So no, there's a transparency. There's a transparency and there's a reproducibility also. So always think about it. Whenever you are writing a paper, it is good. I know it is not always possible, but if it is possible, it is always a good practice to give away the codes. Maybe you can put them on GitHub. You can put them in the data library, which is the data if it is free, and you are allowed to share. Then you can put it inside something called an IEEE data port. If you want to share your codes, you can do it by yourself in GitHub. But there is also another place where you can do is this the code library, which is there also from IEEE. So there are other options also. But it's what I want to say over here is if it is good and if it's possible, try to share your codes, algorithms, and data sets also if it's possible, so that the one who is reading your
Good evening, sir. This is Mahalingam. I have a question.
Yes.
Like, I do not know because it's in the beginning. Like you may cover in the later also. Like my question is, like when we create a kind of graphical interface, like kind of a small software to analyze the data.
Yes.
So is it should I publish in a journal or should I want to get the patent for it? Because I have seen some people already have published, and some people they say that for this you have to get the patent. So which is a good one, sir?
Okay, good question. Is that okay? There are two options I can tell you. One is that well, patent. No, I would say patent. Of course, is a different process altogether. But no, it takes some time. So there's a time process for a patent to go on.
Okay.
But there are journals. There are journals which are dedicated and devoted to such kind of work. If you go and see in Elsevier, Elsevier have a journal which is called Method X.
Okay.
Method X. You can publish your method over there. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
There is another journal which is also something called Data or something.
Okay.
Okay, so there are journals which are particularly meant for this kind of kind of applications where you can publish those applications. So no, for that also you have I mean a specific template. I mean you have to put how your things are done and so on. So I mean it's not the standard way of writing a paper, but slightly different. But there are journals are available for doing for publishing this kind of work. Patent, of course, you can do, but patent will be in a different procedure. You know, the patent always have a different procedure. It's slightly different from the kind of publishing a paper. So it's up to you how you want to see it. If you want to have it, let's say, quicker than a patent, it's publishing in this kind of journal would be better. But if you really want to patent it and you have the patience, of course, then you go for a patent.
Okay.
But then, well, there are certain things which you have to oblige in a patent.
Okay.
So it's up to you again.
Okay.
But journals are available.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Vasudha. Hello, Vasudha. We continue.
Okay. Okay. So we continue with this.
Sir, I have one more question. If you don't mind, can I raise?
Sure. Yes, please.
Sir, like we consider there is a two journal, one is A, another one is B. When we consider this A and B, A has the more grade than the B. But when we publish our paper in the high rated journals, like they take some time, even for a year. Like some people may get fed up with this process for waiting for years together. So they may go to the lower grade journals. So what would happen, sir? Like why these high grade journals are taking this much time to give the review or to accept the papers?
Well, this is not, I mean, a standard. Okay, I will come to this point in my presentation, but just to give you an idea. Well, when you say grade, you are talking about the impact factor.
Yes,
yeah.
Impact factor or popularity.
Yeah, so impact factor is only a popularity index, not a prestige index. Okay. There are other indices also, but I know it is always that we look in into the impact factor. I mean, I'm sure it is all of us. In fact, sometimes it's me too. We always look into the impact factor, but believe me, impact factor is not enough to characterize a journal. You know, you should look into the eigen factor and so on, other bibliometrics which are there. The impact factor is one of them. Okay, so next time when you look into it, there are few things which you need to see. First of all, of course, you seeing impact factor, but if you can want to see some other bibliometric matrix, it is also good in that way. Second point, what you mentioned is that, well, it is not a general trend where you say that these journals with a high impact factor normally takes a lot of time. See, it is all everything is a peer reviewed process. Okay, so this is a peer reviewed process where someone is reviewing a paper. So I mean, you and me, at the end of the day, we are also reviewers. We are sending our papers. I'm sure you're also reviewing papers also. And of course, there are times when you are delayed, I am delayed, and reviewers who are reviewing your papers also are human beings. So they are also delaying the things. The associate editor and the editors are after them as they would be after you and me if we delay a paper. So no, it's a process. It's a process in which it is done by people in the community. We are in the community. I am reviewing a paper, even if I am editor-in-chief. Same thing, Professor Rao also, same thing for you also. We are all reviewing our papers from others, and we are also submitting our own paper. So yes, I understand that we tend to get fed up, but I think it is also important to understand is that, well, we are all in the same in the same place, with the same profession what we are doing it. So the most important thing is going from one journal to the other one, which is a summary. I'm telling you, the summary of your question is that the going from one journal to other is entirely up to you, but think in this way that if I publish in a journal A or a journal B, irrespective of their impact factor, if it is, let's say one is X and the other is Y, where X and Y, there are not so much of difference. The only thing which matters to you is that will your paper be cited? Will your paper be read by the community in which you belong? Otherwise, what is the impact factor? Or this is for the journal. Okay, this is not for your paper. That means if your paper is good, it is accepted. But no, it is also the point to understand is someone has to read your paper. So you should be the judge of that where should I send the paper where it will get maximum visibility. So think about that first. Impact factor. See, otherwise, I would say, I write a paper, I send it to Nature. I can always send it. Who will stop me from doing it? But for sure, it will be rejected. Okay, so the idea is that, I mean, I can not only look into the impact factor and send it. Okay. I have to also see where I belong to. My community belongs where. That's the main thing which you need to look into.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, I move ahead and I will discuss more during my presentation. And if you have more questions coming up in your mind, please stop me and do ask me. I'll be very happy.
One question we'll take from Ms. Vasudha, then we'll move on.
Sure.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, how much self-plagiarism is acceptable in the paper, sir? Because I will be doing algorithm 1 part and I publish my paper. When I'm doing the algorithm part 2, I want to publish a new paper based on algorithm 2, but some contents will be having from the algorithm 1 also. So how much self-plagiarism is acceptable for the paper, sir?
Okay, one thing I'll tell you is
one more thing.
Should I answer this?
Is like, yes, sir.
Okay, so one thing is that there is nothing called as self-plagiarism. Plagiarism is plagiarism. Well, it is, we have put this word, but there's nothing called a self-plagiarism. It's just repetition. So yes, it's a good question. If you are talking about in that sense, I will say that, well, there are different journals, different journals and different publication house. They have their own threshold. So I would say in IEEE, at least for GRSL, there is a threshold of 30% similarity. Okay. So
Okay.
what does that mean? That means that there is a software, okay, which checks similarity of your work with everything which is there on the web. Okay, and it gives me a report where it tells me about, well, this is a similarity, the percentage of similarity, and it tells me from which journal, conference, wherever it appeared, it is copied from there, and in which percentage. Now 30% is the threshold. Now whenever it is more, it is 30 or more, so it is greater than equal to 30. When it is 30 or more, there is an email and a red flag is raised. It tells me, hello, there is a paper which says this thing, could you please have a look? So before I assign the paper to the associate editor, I look into the report and I see, well, it has been well, it is like the things which are copied, or not copied, but it has come from something which is a conference article, okay, from the same group of authors, which is okay, not a problem. It has come from another journal which the authors wrote couple of I don't know, months ago or something, and it is not very critical because what is common over there are the equations. Well, equations I cannot change. If the equation is there, I mean, I will not be able to change the equation. So what I look into is mostly if there is a similarity in the results and discussion part. Because introduction also, no, because if the domain is the same, introduction will have something or the other. I mean, it's okay. I mean, we cannot change entirely everything. I mean, I have to also understand that. But the software doesn't understand that. The software only gives me a number and all these red lines and all these things. But it's up to me to check all these things. And then I go to I see, well, there is a lot of copied portion, similarity in the results and discussion section. Then I say, no, this is not acceptable. Then I send it back. Either I reject it completely, or I say I unsubmit it. That's that's saying that, well, I'm not rejecting it, but I'm unsubmitting, giving you a chance to redo the paper and send it back again. I'll try to see again. So it's a softer version. Okay, sometimes I am softer. I'm not always very harsh. Okay. So otherwise, if I see really it's a copied from the other thing, other material, with the authors have wrote their own paper and so on, or maybe from other source altogether, then it's a direct rejection from me. But it also can happen that the similarity is more than 30, let's say 40 and above, but it is not so severe because, as I said, it can be some sentences from the introduction, some copied from the references, some from here, some from there. It's okay. I say you can pass away that. So first of all, try not to repeat. I know it is always not possible, but try to kind of rephrase as much as possible. Don't utilize the same thing. That's my comment on this. Don't worry. Don't think too much about this percentage. How much will they do? Think that the severity is more than 0%. Always think about that. Of course, it is not, but there should not be any repetition as much as possible in your writing. In the equations and all these things, there could be something. I understand you cannot change everything, but whatever you are writing about them, that should be new, rephrased, and kind of thing. Try to do that.
Yeah, I think
Thank
we'll
you,
move
sir.
on, and in between we'll take this question.
Okay, thank you. So I move to the next one. Is that the general results useful for different, as I mentioned the same thing over here, that you should have results which are general and which are useful for other data sets. What should one publish? It's the same thing, but part 2 is that, as I mentioned again, that write in correct and good English is very important. I will tell you, The first paper I wrote, I'll give my example because that's the best I can give, and so that you also understand. The first paper which I wrote, that paper, unfortunately or fortunately, I would say, was read by my supervisor, who was, fortunately, I would say now. That time I was thinking bad about him, but now I would say, fortunately, he was a British. He read my paper, and after a day or two, he told me that, well, you write good, but it's too flowery. It's not a research article. I do not. I was not. I was unsure to feel happy or to feel sad. So what I did, I had to again rewrite everything, and that was an iteration for 3 times. 3 iterations it has to go. Finally, the paper was sent for review. So you need to be correct. You need not be flowery. We are not native English speakers. Okay, we all have our mother tongue, and we all have our own way of talking, writing English. It's okay. There is no problem in that. There is no harm in that. But whatever you are writing, that should be correct, and it should be good English. Simple. Try to use simple words, short sentences. Don't write like going on and on and on by 2-3 sentences and then the full stop. People will be lost from where you started and what you're saying at the end. Imagine someone is reading your paper. It's a scientific paper. There is a lot of science going on, maths going on. Then there's a sentence which is three lines. Come on, you have to be kind of nice to the people who are reading it. So be short sentences, correct, and small paragraphs, not more than 3-4 sentences. If you write a paragraph, I don't know, more than 10 or 15 lines, the obvious thing is that when someone is reviewing, reviewers don't have time. You, me also are reviewers. We just look into it very fast sometimes. Whenever we are attracted to something, we just stuck, and then we get interest. But otherwise, they do not have time. So you have a paragraph which is a long paragraph. So it's 15-20 lines. Person who is reading it will think when it will end. But if the paragraph is 3-4 sentences, well, this is a short one. So I can finish it off quickly, and that will catch attention. So try to be good, correct in English, not flowery, short sentences and short paragraphs. And check it again with your colleagues, and try to see whether you are not missing out any things you have, checking for grammars and spellings and so on and so forth. And reviewers, I can tell you, are not keen to reading papers which are not understandable. I mean, they will simply, even if your work is very good, and I find that often, and I can tell you that I can find often that the work is really good, but well, the paper, the writing is really, really pathetic. So it's an immediate reject, I can tell you. The research that may improve in time, what you need to look into, that the reviewers take the reviewers' comment very seriously. I'll tell you what happens normally, and it happens, I'm sure, to all of you. It happens to me. It happens to my students. Everyone, is that you send the paper, you get a major revision or a minor, let's say a major revision or something like a reject and resubmit, something like that, and you get whole lot of review comments from the reviewers. Some of them are on a lighter note, some of them are strong, harsh, and the immediate feeling when you read all of them is like, how can you say something? This is my work. I mean, are you crazy? The first thought is that, I mean, you just say that the reviewers have done something very wrong. Your paper should have been accepted at one go. That is the idea which we have. So when we read it once, the idea is that, how can you tell me that? I mean, that's the feeling. I mean, are you crazy? Don't you know this? Don't do anything at all. I tell my students, don't do anything. Don't take any action. Again, read it again. I ask them to read at least 10 times, at least. It depending upon the paper size. If it's a letter or a journal, read it 10 times. I can tell you that. At the 10th time, possibly, or maybe if you can do it more, you will try to understand. The things will sink in. Maybe this is where the mistake is. Maybe I am not able to properly understand. Maybe this person, whoever he or she is good. Yeah, I mean, this is what the things comes after reading 10 times. So take it very seriously. Just don't read once and take a decision. I know sometimes it happens. I see a lot of times there are maybe they are students. I don't know them, but maybe they are students. But the supervisor has to take care of that. There are students who just gets a decision, and I get an email immediately after that. How can you reject my paper? Okay, I have done this. I don't have time to read that, and I'm not an expert in everything. My job was to do a fair review process. So I don't comment. I don't reply back. It's a waste of time, because I know this is what has happened. Immediately they get a decision and they write this long an email to me. Come on, I don't have time to read your email. I'm very sorry. Maybe you are right, but there's a proper way of writing it. What you do, you have to go back, look into the work, make a proper revision of the thing, put your comments, write a letter, and then send it. Then only we'll have a look at it. They try to incorporate what they ask and pay attention. Of course, you need to go by what they say. Maybe all the time, maybe it is not possible to incorporate everything. I understand that. But if you are unable to incorporate, if you think there's a problem or you cannot do that, please write it. Be clear upfront. Say that this is not possible because of this. Don't just think, well, it is not possible, I will not write, or just avoid it. No, don't simply avoid it. Write upfront. They'll, whatever the consequences is, just don't worry, just write upfront. Prepare to add more examples, more computation, more comparisons. Yes, prepare to do that. Don't just say, do it in few days and submit it again back. It will not work. I can tell you for sure. If you think I need to publish, I get to accept it quickly, it will get rejected more quickly. That's what happens. So the more you think it will be accepted more quickly and you do it very fast now within 2 days and send it, the chances are very high it will get rejected. So take your time. You get a time. You get a time to do your revision. You take your time. If they ask you to prepare examples, like say 2 more, prepare 4 more. If they ask you to show the comparison or computation, show everything, whatever you have, in whatever way possible, in your letter, in your something, whatever way is possible, show more. That's very important. Where should one publish? Of course, I mentioned this again, where the topic belongs to, where most of the reference about topics come from. You need to see that. Gather, of course, sound history, as I mentioned to someone who was asking this question. Gather sound history of the journal and society or the company you publish it. So you need to understand, because it's not that, well, you just type in a Google and say journal, you get the first one and you send it to over there. No, it's not that how you do it. You need to, you know a conference, you know a journal where things are published of whatever research you are doing. And again, the same point as I mentioned, someone was asking me this question is that, yes, of course, people look into this high impact factor. That's what I mentioned over here in bold. This is only a popularity index, not a prestige index. It's not everything. Popularity is good, but as I mentioned again, it's not everything. Please just don't look into that. Look into other metrics also. Quick review time, of course, it is. We need to look into that. Sometimes it is very important because you need to get review comments quickly. Low cost depends upon if the journal is open access or not. That depends upon the cost also. There are some, of course, journals who have these article processing charges and so on. So sometimes people look into the cost because you're not unable to pay all the time. I understand there are lack of funds and so on. So what about IEEE journals? The majority of journals feature the author's original research. This is the IEEE journals are developed for fully developed presentation. So it's the final finding. So it has everything over there. Its significant novelty should be there. It should be thorough. It should be complete exploration. Clear conclusion supporting your data experiments. Of course, it can be either a letter or a full paper. So it can either be like a GRSL or a TGRS or a JSTAR. It's up to you. Where do you fit into your work? I mean, how much space do you need to fit into that work? For example, you think that, well, I need to show this, I need to show that, and all these things, and it will not fit into 5 pages, then GRSL is not the place for you. You have to go either to a transaction or to JSTARs. Conferences, on the other hand, is often a report on the ongoing research, because when you say in conference, you send something which is just a part of your ongoing research work, which you think that will be developed into a journal. So it can just a preliminary result, just your ideas, not giving any details. If you do not want to give, don't give the details. Just the idea which you want to share with your community, so that well, you know that, well, want to tell your peers or the audience, well, you know, something is coming up, stay tuned, it will be soon there. So this is what the preliminary result shows you. And of course, as I mentioned, the conference journal are typically the short one and with less details and fewer references, and this often goes to being a journal. The journals are cited 3 times more often than any patent application or other journals in IEEE. Of course, there is also a high percentage of articles which are rejected also. So, well, it is because it is very, it maintains a very high standards, the journals. So yes, they are rejected, of course, a lot. Conferences is are recognized as a collection of consolidated published articles in computer science, selected field, electrical engineering, so on and so forth. And well, as per IEEE, if you do not present your article in a conference, well, it may not appear in Explore. So there are certain rules are there about conferences. We're not bothered about it in the moment over here. Finding the right IEEE publication or IEEE conference, well, there are so many of them. As I mentioned, there are so many of them. You need to find out where do you want to publish, because it's cover a different range. And this I already have talked about. Who reads it? What they publish? What kind of articles they want? Who is the editorial board? If you would like to see that, because it's always very important to look into who is there in the editorial board. Let's see. What is their editorial record? What is the impact factor or any other metrics which you want to see? So just to get an insight, I mean, whenever you start doing this, you get more information about the journal, which may be useful for many things. So try to, whenever you are looking at a journal, you want to send it to, try to look into those aspects. That will kind of maybe help you in some way or the other. There are so many conferences out there, and well, find a good match of your research and ensure that you are available to present and so on. So we are not wondering about the conferences. The journals, as I mentioned, are transactions, which publishes advanced geoscience and remote sensing. There are letters, which publishes short papers, new ideas, new and formative concepts, and timely, because since it believes on rapid publication, so it should be timely also. You cannot have a work which is there, but it is not so important, it's not so timely. So why should I publish in a letters? It should be short, informative, new ideas, and should be timely. It should be within the new research idea or the state of the art which is going on. And then you have the Journal of Selected Topics in Applied Earth Observation, JSTARS, which is now an open access. Have a look at it, and it issues current in techniques in applied remote sensing and integration, applied modeling, and so on and so forth. So it's mostly in the applied domain kind of thing, but nevertheless, it also takes algorithms and all. So now it's an open access. The journals are, as I mentioned, transaction, where the letters and JSTARS. As of 2020, it's a full open access. 2020 January, it's a full open access. Have a look at it. There's also the magazine, which is 4 issues per year. It's very, very nice. You can have a look at them. The conferences, of course, are IGARS, which is the International Geoscience and Remote Sensing Conference. This is the flagship conference, but there are many other small conferences which are there. Who is the audience? I mean, who reads scientific papers? So as I mentioned, you are publishing, but who is reading it? So they're engineers, scientists, educators like us, researchers from different academic labs, corporations, governments, and so on. But as I mentioned, the same group is also involved in writing those papers also. The people, so we are in the same group. We are reading, we are writing, we are reviewing. So it's the same group which we are doing. That's why it's peer reviewed. So the same group is also involved in writing scientific papers. The motivation and focus, of course, often varies. For example, for us as an educator in an academic institution like me and Professor Ramarao, we have our own focus. If you are into industry, you have your own process, of your thought process. You have your own ways of thinking. Why should I publish? Maybe corporate, government, you have your own ways. So that's different, and it's okay. Students have their own ways. So students typically write conference paper, and because they are new to the field, so they need to write a conference paper which is easier, I would say, and then go on to make it as a journal paper, which takes a lot more time and more maturity to do that. Industry participants and often have often authors conferences, but much smaller. They contribute a very small subset to the journal articles. Peer reviewed, as I mentioned. So most scientific articles, as we know, are peer reviewed. We have a decision of accept or reject. We don't want to be rejected. That's very true. And are based on assessment of the manuscript by peer reviewers. So they are not, we don't say, I mean, they're experts in your field, but they are your peers. So when something comes, you review it for them. Your paper are reviewed by your peers. So with established expertise, of course, these reviewers come with, an associate editor comes with some expertise in the field. And usually, how do you have them? Because they have published in your journal. So you know that, well, since they have published, so they have certain expertise. They are not the one you are bringing them from anywhere. They are published, a couple of them in the journals, in your journal, and then you invite them to review the paper. The decisions are made by the editor-in-chief and the associate editors. The associate editors gives a recommendation. Whenever you have it, it goes to the reviewers. The reviewers send the reviews back to the associate editor. Associate editor, again, being an expert in the field, goes through them, summarize them, and then gives the recommendation whether to accept it, to reject it, to give a major comment, major or a minor decision, or to have a reject or a resubmit. So, and also gives his own thought most of the time, not always, but most of the time give their own assessment, of course. They can be very different from the reviewers. So, for example, the reviewers might have given a minor revision, but the associate editor can think, no, it's a major. So that person has all the rights. Being an associate editor, you have all the rights to go through the thing, and you can always think that, well, this is not what I agree with. Maybe I do not agree with any of the reviewers. Maybe I need a new set of reviewers, which will take time, of course, fine. But maybe it is sometimes, or not always, but at times we have to do that. It might so happen that, well, you see a review comment and you see that, well, there could be a problem because maybe the reviewers are known to the authors. Well, it's a small world. It can happen. So that is up to you to think about. So this is the associate editor who looks into all these things and say, no, I cannot consider this review. So I have to remove this and go to someone else and say, well, can you review it? Okay, don't give the explanation. And then this guy summarizes and write to me. There's a part which is confidential to me, and I have a look at it and I think, well, given all the things I can have it in front of me, I can give a totally different decision. It's up to me. I can override over everything, and I do it sometimes. Believe me. Sometimes I do it because I think this is in the benefit of the authors. I don't do it just for that, because it is what I want. I want the journal to be the top quality. I want to have papers in my journal. See, if I start rejecting everything, then my journal will be zero paper. That is what I don't want. I want good papers in my journal. So whatever I am taking a decision is totally in favor of the authors. The favor can be in terms of an accept, which is everyone wants, but that can be also a reject and a resubmit. I say, no, I will not take this manuscript in this format at the moment. You need to do further work. Please do that, and I will be happy to have it again. This is for the benefit of science. I'm doing it. And of course, the benefit of the authors. Believe me, they will curse me, abuse me for a long time, but when the paper will be accepted for the next revision, they'll be happy to see a revised version which looks much better. This happens to many and for all of us. So manuscript assigned to the AE based on their expertise. The AE solicits comment from the reviewer and assimilate them, as I said. It's not usually 3. Normally it is 2. We have it 2. Sometimes they have it 3, but 3 is not. It's 2 only. But it all depends upon the associate editor. The associate editor, he or she can call more than 2 also. And a decision is made once the AE make a recommendation. The AE make a recommendation, it comes to me, and I see the recommendation. Most of the time, I agree with the associate editor on most cases. But cases where I do not agree with an associate editor, I write an email personally to them, to him or her, trying to clarify certain things. Something which is misleading, or I am not able to understand, or can you throw more light on this maybe, or do you think, can we change the decision? Sometimes it happens sometimes, but it does happen. I can tell you that. So what are the editors and reviewers looking for? They're looking for this appropriate, in scope and level, very important, clearly written in original material that addresses new and important problem. It can be extension of previously published work, valid methods and rationals, illustration, tables, graphs, and support of text, references that are current and relevant to the subject. This is what you all as a reviewers are looking for in summary. So I think this slide gives you everything what a reviewer is looking for. Beyond that, if someone is looking for something special, well, that's a different thing. But this is, in nutshell, they are what they're looking for, and this is exactly what you want to publish. So both of you are on the same page. Why do the reviewers reject a paper? Well, this is very important. We don't like this. The content is not good fit for publication, and this goes for a direct reject. This is called as a desk rejection. It goes from the EIC. This is a journal for geoscience and remote sensing paper. Someone sends a paper on I don't know, some biology of why COVID is happening. Well, I don't think it's from GRSL. I mean, it doesn't match, maybe. Well, because I have to at least have something which is at least geoscience and remote sensing. So something which comes from biology, history of pandemic. I mean, sorry, I cannot publish that. So something which needs to be a good fit for the journal, and that I check it. And most of the time I say, I send it back if it is not within the scope, because it is good for both. It is good for the journal. It is good for the authors also. Same thing what I talked to just a couple of minutes before. Even if I accept it to go in the journal and the paper is very well written, everything is fine, who will read it? First of all, I will not get reviewers to review a paper properly. Even by luck, even if I get reviewers to review it properly, you won't get audience. People are from geoscience and remote sensing. Your paper maybe is marginally there. So the review, even if the paper is there, it won't get citation, it won't be acknowledged. So it's not good for you. It's not in your benefit. So that's why it is rejected. There are serious scientific flaws. Well, that is obvious. You cannot have something which is inconclusive, incorrect, and so on. Fraudulent research, very important. If those things are caught, these are serious scientific flaws, and you cannot have that. Poorly written, your research is good, but it is very poorly written. Well, I think it needs to, you have to revise it. It cannot go in this way properly, so I send it back. It's very poorly written. It does not address an exigent problem or advance the knowledge scientific. You are doing something which is already there, so you're reinventing the wheel. So why should I publish it? Is there something new? No, it's not advancing any knowledge in that field. The work was previously published. If something is there already published, why do you want to publish it again? The quality is not good enough for the journal. Reviewers have misunderstood the article. Well, this is the reviewer's point of view, but well, this can always be settled to a certain extent. I mean, if you think that, well, reviewers have misunderstood, and there's always a way to resubmit with proper justification. Only then can I send the paper again to the reader, saying that, well, you see that there is some mistakes or something happened with the reviewers in misunderstanding. Preparing your manuscript. This is all the things which you know: title, abstract, keywords, introduction, methodology, result, discussions, conclusion, reference. This is standard, and I call this as IMRAD. So this is introduction, methodology, results, and discussion. So you follow that IMRAD thing. Normally, we all follow IMRAD. We write the title, abstract, but the thing is, what comes first? Well, it is your choice, but I start with the methodology, go to the results and discussion, come back to the introduction, go to the conclusion, come back and write at the end the abstract. So it's not the same order in which it is written. Title may be there is a working title. I put it as a working title, but I change it at the end of the paper. Abstract is the last thing I write. Keywords also along with that. Introduction, of course, at the end. First with the methodology, then the results and discussion, then conclusion if you can write the conclusion, but then you go to the introduction, you introduce the problem over there, and depending upon that you conclude. So it's not linear. That sense, it's highly non-linear way of doing it. But the standard is IMRAD, so it's introduction, methodology, results, and discussion. If you are confused, just follow this. Inside that you can make subsections and so on and so forth, but just follow an IMRAD. Title, it should be effective. Of course, it is relevant. Is this title relevant to me? The question is that. Grabs the reader attention. It should be a little bit catchy because it should contain those words which people would associate themselves. It should also be the one which you can find when you give a search. Imagine you give something which is not searchable, then your paper will not be, no one will search it. So it should be within the scope, within the context, and also the reader's attention. Describe the content of the paper within the fewest possible word, in crisp, concise keywords. Please avoid jargons, because if I use jargons in the title, well, I'm sure people will not be able to understand that. For example, bad title. I was a good title. How we solve an important problem. So, but just imagine just writing it this way: color coded. This is just to give an example to be very crisp and to the point. Just an example to show a bad title and a good title. Abstract. It should be standalone, condensed version of the article. It should cover significance, novelty, methodology, findings, and conclusion in very, very concise and nutshell. But everyone will read your abstract first. If they are not motivated or not interested after reading your abstract, they will not read anything at all. So your abstract is the key, and it should be standalone. It should grab everything over there. Everyone should read that and say, wow, I would like to read the paper and see what is there. That should be the effect of an abstract. It's very difficult. The abstract takes I would say the maximum amount of time in a paper, for me, of course. I always have trouble writing the abstract because I always think it's not good enough, because it is what really needs to catch the attention. Important for most students, this will determine if they read the rest of the paper. Several decisions in peer-reviewed process depend on the title and the abstract. I can tell you that. Some people, reviewers, read the abstract and they are totally put off because it is either written very badly, not only that, not only technically, but also in terms of the language and so on. So we'll say, well, if the abstract is bad, do I need to read the paper? Or if I have to do the job, let me do it quite quickly. But if someone is really attracted towards the abstract, that person, he or she, will really go through your manuscript very carefully and with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of eagerness. Okay, guidelines: you should plan to spend a significant amount of time writing or reviewing an abstract. This is what I want to mention. The abstract should not be an afterthought. Very important. You should not do that. Well, I don't want to. The keywords are important. You have to find out the correct keywords. Example, for example, I given over here: synthetic aperture radar, radar polarimetry. For example, the things which are very appropriate within the scope of your manuscript. They should be occurring somewhere. Searchable, applicable, specific. Very important keywords. Introduction is a description of the problem you researched. It should move step by step so that it is the motivation. Why is the problem of interest? Generally known information about the topic, prior studies, an overview of the work and results, contribution, how the article is organized. This is the way it should, what you are doing. This is, you are introducing the problem. For example, it simply means, why did you write the paper in the first go? There was no need to write your paper. So why is the problem of interest? I'm writing a paper and I want all of you to read it, but you can question me, why is the problem of interest? It's of no interest at all to anyone. Why should you write a paper on this? Come on, you can have it rejected. So it should have an interest in the domain in which you are writing, of course. Generally known information on the topic. So you have to then do this research of all the references, prior studies, historical context to your research. If something has been done before, where there is a connection, what kind of connection it is and how are you improving on that, bring that connection. Very important. Then you give an overview of your work, just an overview of your work and what will be followed in the manuscript, in of course in a concise way, but clear, very clearly you mention. Okay, very clearly, and at the end you can write how it is organized. It should be specific, the introduction, and not too broad or vague. You just don't go on writing, because some people write an introduction too long. It's very lengthy, and actually you are lost reading it. So at the end, when you read the abstract, I mean the introduction, you don't know, I mean, where you started, what it is all about. So you are totally lost. Don't make it too long. Okay, it depending upon it's a letter or a full paper. I mean, think about how much it should be given the context. Okay, write, of course, write in present tense. Okay, methodology is the problem formulation and the process. You should solve the problem, prove or disprove the hypothesis. This is what you want to prove, show in the result. The result can contain some figures, some graphs, some tables, and so on. Try to be as clear and as possible. Okay, sometimes I know I have seen papers where you can hardly see anything. You have figures which are of very poor resolutions. This is totally a turn off. I mean, they are not good for any scientific journal. If you want to prepare some graph, be careful. Make the graphs in a proper, using a proper software. Just don't do a patchy work. It is not advisable at all. I mean, people will just look into it and see, well, you are not a professional. Make something which looks really good. The figure should be very high resolution. It should be very clear. The tables should be put in such a way that just looking at the table should tell you everything. You should not read and come back to the table and go back and forth. The table should be self-explanatory. Similarly, the graphs. So this is very important. Think about it when you are doing all these things. Just don't do it in any goddamn software and just do it. Just put and ask someone to do it, and then that guy is not doing it professionally, right, and so on. You just put it over there. Don't do that. This, please. As much as it's important to write it in a proper way, it is also very, very important, or maybe more important than putting all these things in a proper way, very clearly, high resolution, and very clearly. Results and discussion that should demonstrate that you have solved the problem, made significant advances, because that should tell you in the result. They should tell you that you have solved the problem. You have made significant advances. Describe everything. The experiment, the analysis, what was used, what data set was used, why was it used, what are the metrics you have used to analyze, and so on. Results, summarize the data, should be clear and concise. Discussion, so interpret the result. Why is your research offers a new solution? How can it benefit other researchers? Acknowledge any limitation. Talk about limitations also. Don't only talk about that you have this done. And this can only do this. Also talk about the limitations, that this can be done only under these circumstances, only on this data set, and so on. I mean, be very, very clear and transparent. Conclusion, explain research has been achieved. As it is the problem stated in the introduction, that's why there's a connection between the introduction and the conclusion, because in the introduction, you have introduced the problem, you have said why it is important, and so on and so forth. In the conclusion, what you are saying that your research has been achieved. So there is a connection between the conclusion and the introduction, and there should be a connection. So you need to see that what is there in the introduction and what you're writing in the conclusion. Okay, provide benefit and shortcomings, the solution presented, your research and methodology, and if you want to suggest some future area in the research. So very clearly, it is not a repetition of the abstract. Many people make this mistake. No, please don't do that. It is a concluding your work. It's not your abstract. So please don't repeat whatever is there in the abstract. References, very important. You have to support and validate the hypothesis. There is no limit of the number, but of course it depends upon the pages and so on. But use only those which support your work. Ensure proper author attribution. Title, don't make any mistakes over there. I mean, some people write the names wrongly, the title not properly, also the references are not proper. Don't do that. Double check. The references are as important, maybe more, than your paper, because who will be reading your paper will also go to the references and check whether when you are referring this thing, is it there, what is done, what is the work has been done over there which you are referring, and so on. So if the references are not proper, they're not working, well, this is not so good. So be careful when you are putting the references. Summary, preparing your manuscript, you can start with, so always start before all your work are done. Don't think that, well, I'm doing a research, let me complete it, which will be completed in 6 months or 1 year, then I will write a paper. No, don't do that. By that time, you will be doing something else, I'm telling you. So start your work when you are halfway through, I would say. I do that always. When you are halfway through, put down your thoughts. I mean, don't have to take the template, whichever journal you think, that can change, of course, later, not a problem at all. But at least you try to put them in a journal framework. Try to put the things over there, as in a methodology. Other things you can forget. In the IMRAD, put the M. Put everything in the M column, M section. But don't submit it, of course. You need to have the full paper ready. Check for logical organization, clarity, brevity. So you need to make it logically very well. From the top to bottom of the paper, there should be a logical link. It should not be, I write something over here, the next sentence says something else. What's the point? There should be a logical connection in all your things which you write. As I said at the end, when you are submitting to a journal, when you are sure that you will submit to a specific journal, then please see the style of journal. This is very annoying when some people send the paper in IEEE GRSL, but the format is of some other journal. I mean, this is not correct. It clearly shows that you are not serious about your work and you are very, very careless. I send it right. I just send it back to the authors. It reflects very badly. Very properly understand the style, the format of the journal. Good work presented poorly is often misunderstood and related poor, and this is rejected. Okay, and always think about the review process is not intended to edit the manuscript. Some people think that they will do incremental revision, and the reviewers will say, "Oh, you have not done in this paragraph. Please do that." No. Please, your review process is to look into the scientific aspect. It is not meant to make incremental modification and to edit the manuscript. It is your work as an author to make it. Very important, publication etiquettes and ethics. Very important. This is very important for publishing in anywhere you're publishing, in any journal, not only IEEE. What happens when you click submit? As I mentioned, as soon as you have the paper ready, you click, put in manuscript central, you say submit. And the typical workflow is this. You have the author, manuscript submitted, it goes to the journal stuff and so on. And there is this cross check which actually tries to check the authenticity. It checks at some places, the journal stuff looks into it, it goes to me, it comes to over the editor-in-chief, and then it goes as the editor. It can go back from here, it can go back from here, it can go back from here too. So it goes over there and then it comes back again. And finally it gets published. So peer review and publication consumes a lot of time and energy from a lot of people, mostly experienced and volunteers and unpaid volunteers, but they have their other day jobs. So it's very important that you kind of think about that when you're doing it. Value the time of others, editorial board, reviewers, readers, and of course, it's important your own. You're doing it for your own. Maintain integrity of publication, scientific integrity, authorship, understanding and avoid unacceptable conduct, plagiarism, duplicate submission, and disclosure. Type of misconducts, there are fraud data manipulation. People try to fabricate data. They try to show selective, cherry picking the results only to show that these are the only one. And believe me, eventually this get uncovered. Maybe very quickly, maybe it can take some time, but people will know about it. Either it will be sent back, I mean the publication house will know about it, or simply your work will not be acknowledged, it will not be cited, because people will know that, well, there's a problem. Plagiarism, copying another person's work, words or paraphrasing without proper citation. So as someone mentioned, self-plagiarism, there's nothing called self-plagiarism, everything is plagiarism. It's just a repetition you are doing. Must cite all sources of all ideas, even informal. Whatever you are doing, please cite and just don't copy from anywhere else. Inappropriate author attribution, include any and all who have made sustainable intellectual contribution to the work. Please do not include non-contributors. You are not obliging anyone. This is very important. Authorship should be only given to those who have actually contributed to the work in whatever form. It is up to you to decide whoever is the main author. It is the main author decision, but please decide logically that you do not include anyone who has not contributed at all. Just because that person is there in your lab or whatever it is, it means nothing. Conflict of interest, undisclosed financial or other interest that may hinder unbiased presentation of data. So if you have conflict of interest, please clearly mention whatever you have. There is some financial aspect which can bias or something. You are doing it for some company or something like that. Please clearly mention. It can be an organization. It can be an individual also. So mention about conflicts of interest for organization, individuals, and so on. Ethical publishing, maintain scientific integrity. Your manuscript should reflect what you actually did and observed. Okay, do not fabricate results or data. Results should be reproducible. Selective reporting is not correct, it's deceitful. So you don't do that. And as I mentioned, it will be eventually uncovered, and there are several cases that have been there. Conflict of interest should be minimized, as I mentioned. Corresponding author is responsible for checking all those information before submitting. If you have anything, please mention it in your cover letter. Avoid plagiarism. This is very, very important. Cite and separate any verbatim copied material, paraphrase, reuse text, and include citation, credits, any reused ideas, whatever you have, just credit them. And please, familiarize with all the in the journals, not only IEEE, but all the journal policies which talks about plagiarism, because different journals and publication houses take these different plagiarism in different ways. They have different policies. IEEE have different policies, and LCV have different policies. So try to avoid as much as possible. This is a very, very important thing, and very should at all times be looked into. Sometimes it may happen that you are a co-author and you are not aware of someone who is doing it, because there are other authors also. Please check. There are softwares which are available for free or paid. Turnitin and many others are there. Some of them are paid, but some of them are unpaid. It does fairly a good job. Check before you submit. Please do that. At least you will get an idea. See, if it is reporting 80%, then please don't send it. I mean, that will not show a very good impression. Even if it is less than 30%, try to avoid as much as possible. It's not correct to do that. Duplicate. Some people, I know that you send it to several journals at the same time. This is not ethical. Again, you just duplicating in submission is not at all good, because it creates a lot of confusion. And I'm telling you that most of the time you will see that it will go to the same reviewer. And it happens that the reviewer will say, well, I am reviewing the same paper coming from another journal, so could you please look into this? What happens at this stage is that your paper gets rejected from all the journals, and you can have some warnings. It happens with in GRSL also. It happens sometimes, and with other editor-in-chiefs, I have to take some decision, and the decision mostly are always direct rejection. So don't send it to a duplicate. Sometimes it can happen if you are lucky enough, but this is not to be very proud of, that even if it accepted and it appears in a journal, at some point of time, someone will point it out, and at that time, your paper has to be retracted back from all the journals, not both, but wherever you have sent. Be very, very careful with that. Okay, so you clearly indicate if you have something that, let's say, you have another paper you submitted which has some portion of it which is common to this paper which is submitting in some other paper. Clearly mention in your cover letter to the editor-in-chief that, well, there is something which is there or which was there in your previous paper. You are reusing that part and you are advancing it in this way. So the editor-in-chief and the associate editors and the reviewers also will know about it. Okay, there is something which the authors have already mentioned, so we'll have a look into it. So it is clear and transparent. If you are hiding, that can be a problem. Authors must inform also inform the editors when submitting it previously. If you have previously published, please, it's a must. You have to inform that to the editor-in-chief. Reuse of published material. You must cite and acknowledge any published material. Okay, diagrams, figures, whatever you are, because you can use some diagrams which are very specific, and you know that this diagrams is really good. You will be unable to make that with that precision. You can utilize it, not a problem, but you need to be a little careful with that, because sometimes that is published and there are some copyright issues are there. So I mean, you have to look into the copyright ownership and so on, get proper permission from the authors and from the publishing house. And if you cannot use it. So better redraw with modification. If you can do that, you can say, well, inspired from this one, this drawing, and you can redraw it. Authorship should be limited to individuals who have, as I mentioned, have contributed to the work and reviewed the manuscript and agree on the contents and so on. All authors share equal responsibility for any ethics violation. That's what I mentioned. So for example, your co-authors may have done something wrong ethically, and if you are not aware of that, you might be in trouble, because since the paper has your name on it, everyone is equally should be punished or get some punishment, whatever that is, from the journal, and it is for equally for all of them. So be careful in that. So it's terrible idea that ethically wrong to include a friend. So sometimes no, you may include a colleague of yours as a co-author or friend just to tell, I mean, just to give something to these people, but well, it's not correct. Only those who have contributed to the scientific of the paper, only they should be there in the authorship, and they should be want to acknowledge them also in the end. Dual submission, as I mentioned, you do not do that. It's not acceptable to submit the same manuscript for the review of multiple journals. Disclosure, you should be very clear about disclosing it. That, as I mentioned over here, you can see there is a talking about this conference and journal overlap. Practice varied by discipline. Well, this is what I mentioned earlier. And of course, there are some variation between communities. Disclosure is sometimes important. Sometimes, well, it is they are not disclosed directly, but it is evident that, okay, there was a conference paper maybe a year back, and you are extending that, sending it. Well, that case, it is understandable to a certain degree. Publication metrics, as I said, there are wide variance of number of citations based on areas. There are bias towards sensitization and marketing rather than scientific merit. Well, metrics are subject to gaming by unethical. Some people little bit play around with the matrix, so they just try to have more citations, which is not ethical. There are many different ways. I will not tell those, but there are different ways in people try to have more citations and try to get more in that, but it's not ethical in that sense. Avoid that. Bibliometric manipulation is what I said over here. Is a misconduct. So cite your own papers when they are relevant, not to increase your own citation count. So just that you're writing a paper which was totally different from your new work, you want to put that because you want to get one more citation. Well, try to avoid. It's a misconduct to do that. I hope you always, all of you have this ORCID registry. So this is very important, and it should be mandatory soon for all the journals, because it makes things very clear, because people having same name, can have two person with the same name can be misunderstood as being the same person. So sometimes this ORCID registry or ORCID number, which is a 16-digit identifier, helps. So it's very important that you have this ORCID ID. It's important also for IEEE and others. You can get it from here. There are certain resources if you want to look into them. Have a look at them. There are some rights and responsibilities. Some protocols are there and so on. Summary, well, it offers a wide variety of publications, journal and conferences. They're open access, conventional, both of them. IEEE journal conferences are among the most prestigious in the Triple E, of course, not only Triple E, but maybe in all fields of wherever IEEE plays an important role, not only in science, but in engineering, but science also. As an author and scientist, you carry your own reputation, of course, as I mentioned, as well as your own co-authors, your institution. So please pay attention to the publication ethics because this is very important. Sometimes people think that, well, publishing is important. Ethics, I may just sleep over it, but please don't do that because it's very, very important that we follow proper ethics when we are submitting our papers. Sometimes, as I mentioned, you may not be aware of the things which our co-authors are doing, but try to get an overall idea, talk to them, your co-authors, and see if everything is fine, in order, the paper, all the things are looked into, they are checked for plagiarism, and so on, and then only send the paper, submit the paper to the journal. So I finish over here with the last slide saying that this is the INGARS 2020, which will be there in December. People who are interested can attend this. This will anyway be an online mode due to the COVID pandemic. This time it will be on online mode. So anyway, thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Professor Avik. We have a lot of questions also.
Sure, of course.
Ms. Parjana?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Sir, my question is, if I have to write a review paper, can I use figures or maps from the article that are already published?
Oh, okay. Yes, you may do that, but as I mentioned, please be careful when you take those, because when you have a paper which is accepted, and when you send that paper to the publishing house, it is IEEE or Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, they have the copyright of the paper, which includes also the tables, the figures, and everything.
Okay.
So, if you want to take that same figure and would like to put it in your journal, the
Yes,
best
sir.
thing is, the proper thing is to contact the authors, okay, and
Okay, sir.
then to contact the publication house. So, because you will be getting the figures from the authors, they can give you the figures, which is the high resolution image, whatever format you want, JPEG, PNG, blah, 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 blah. But it is not enough, because already the authors have transferred the copyright to the publishing house. So even if I have an image or a graph which you would like to take, I can give it to you. Maybe I know you. I can say, okay, further I'll take it and put it. But this is not enough, because the publication house can tomorrow come to both me and you and say, well, how can you do that? Because I own the copyright. So you can approach the publication house, and there is a separate team. Normally it is done. Normally they say, okay, you can go ahead. But I would say go through the proper channel. I mean, if you just take the image from the paper, cut it out and put it over there, I mean, it may pass, but it can have some problem at a later stage.
Thank you, sir.
Right. So,
Thank you.
So next is Ms. Nisha Elsa Varghese.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My question is, if you're using some methods or algorithms from literature review and give citations, will it increase the rate of plagiarism?
No, if you are citing anything from a previously published work, this is not plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you are copying something from there. If you are copying, for example, look at this slide. This slide says summary, IEEE offers a wide. If you take this same thing, I mean, whatever is written over here, take word by word, okay, and you put it in your own slide. This will be totally plagiarized content. That the content is plagiarized. See,
So,
ideas are kind of not, ideas cannot be plagiarized unless and until it is put in some way. Even if you are taking the idea from there and putting it in your own context, this is not plagiarized. But if you are taking whatever has been the same formulation, everything from there and putting it as it is in your, this is plagiarized.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Nishad. Next is Mr. Vishal Chetri. Hello, Mr. Vishal.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Sir, my question to you is that if we consider a PhD to be of duration 3 to 5 years, and since we do our literature review at very initial years, so as per your experience and your guidance, at what stage should I write the literature review paper? At my initial years or at at later stage of my PhD, like at the time when I'm about to complete my PhD?
If I get your question correctly, you want to write a paper on the literature review, or
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
you want to say you want to write a paper on the, or a review article or something like that, if I understand.
Yes, sir. For literature review paper, sir.
Yeah, that's what my mention. So I mean, you can write a review paper, but I would say, you know, review paper are more difficult to write. Okay, because you need to do a lot of research on what's going on in the field. Okay, so I mean, it's better that no, you write papers which deals with your PhD topics or research topics in the initial phase of your research work. And if you really want to write a paper, a review paper, it will be better to write at the end of your PhD. Why? Because of the two things. I find it that is, one, you require a lot of time reading a lot of uh, journals from different places, different sources, and getting the things from there, because the review should be comprehensive. It should be complete. You cannot just write 4 papers and say I have a review paper. You cannot do that. It should be very comprehensive and should be complete. For that, you require a lot of time, energy, and to read all these things. That you can only do when your PhD, I would say, is complete. You have submitted something and you are waiting to get the review comments. So at this time, it is good to start this kind of a work. If you do it in the beginning, you will be losing time on this.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome.
Okay, thank you. Next is Dr. Venkateswar Rao.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon.
Sir, my question is that when we publish, we sometimes we don't see whether this is really a Scopus indexed or Web of Science or UGC recognized, because these things have come UGC recognition and all recently. If someone has want to publish, is it really required to see only these journals, look at only these journals? Because sometimes we find a paper published in a journal that is not in this group having high citations.
Yes, so as I mentioned, so it is again, no, it's up to you, because okay, okay, I will just bring in Professor Ramarao over here, because as he has mentioned initially to me to talk about from an Indian context, because since I am talking to all of you who are all of us are Indian, I mean, so, and we are talking about, so it is, I'm bringing a kind of an since Dr. Rao, you have asked me this question, I'm just bringing in the Indian context, is that let me try to answer your questions from an Indian context. See, what you have said is that we are looking for this Scopus index and UGC recognized. Why? Because no, there is something to do with our promotions and all these things. I mean, there is something related. I mean, there is something at the end of the thing that we want to have it. But sometimes also I have seen many people, we are hesitant in sending our paper, even if, as you mentioned, they are good. They get good citation, even if they are not in this Scopus index or Web of Science. But we are hesitant in sending it to an IEEE journal or Elsevier, thinking that, well, these are big journals, maybe I'm not qualified. We feel inferior at the word go itself. So this pushes us back, and we think sending it to some journal here and there will do my job. What happens? We send it over here, but we see people are reading it. People are citing it. That means your work is good. But the recognition which you should have got from the international community, if you would have sent this paper to an IEEE journal or Elsevier, you have lost that opportunity. Because of that initial kind of, no, there is a wall, I would say. There's a wall. We don't jump over the wall. We say, I mean, sometimes I see people saying, "Are humse nahi hoga." I mean, I am not there as an IEEE. This is IEEE journal. Why? I mean, come on, send it. Have a rejection, send it again. So as you mentioned that, yes, I would say it is important because you are saying that, yes, it is being cited. The paper is good. People are reading it. But since it is just not there in the top league journal, your international maybe thing you are still not there, even if it is read by a lot of people. But a lot of people should also mean that a lot of people should be the leadership of that field. So imagine if that paper would have been sent to a good Elsevier high impact journal or high journal where you get really recognized. I'm not talking about impact, but recognition. You have already lost that because you realized it long after when you start getting citation. So I would say both things. Yes, first of all, see the community who will be reading it. Also, not only it's a global community. For example, when I'm sending my paper, I am thinking globally. My paper will be read by my peers across wherever they are, Asia, Europe, US, everywhere. So I am thinking globally, and then I'm sending it to a journal so that I get that kind of recognition. They will be reading it. If I think, no, I do not want that, then I can send it to some journal which is locally. Maybe I will get a lot of people reading it, say, and it is something like you pat my back and I pat your back kind of thing. So I mean, you are good, I am good, and so on. So we are among ourselves. We are not jumping to the level in which we should be there because we are capable of doing that. So I'm just trying to bring that capability out because we are capable, but the push is not enough. So Dr. Rao, it should come from you. Dr. Venkateswara Rao, it should come
Yes,
from
sir.
you.
Yes, yes, sir.
So that push is required because I see the young generation, they always have this difficulty saying, IEEE GRSL, no, maybe not. I will be, it's a small thing. I'll be okay with that. No, why? So yes, it is important, of course, to see that these journals are world recognized. I am within the international community. Why not when I can be there? And then when you get citation, when you get recognition, and that exactly, and what happens is that, as you mentioned, I just bringing out your point. What you mentioned is that you do that once, twice, thrice, you will be in that league. You don't do that, you will never be in that league. That's the problem. What happens is that when I started doing it, I was also afraid in IEEE journals. Someone told me IEEE, I was also scared, but I got it published. So but when I got it published, the second time I was, okay, I can do it. Let me send it again. I was successful. Third time, I can do it. And now I think my students should do it. If they don't do it, I tell them you are not worth doing a PhD. My student will tell their own student something else, I don't know what. But I tell them you are not worth it. Your peers are publishing in transaction 2 per year. You are doing 1. So I don't think you will get a PhD. So that should come from us, kind of thing. And it's important because that's the level we are pushing the bar higher and higher. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that question up.
Next is Prasanna Lakshmi Prasanna.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, just I have one doubt. That is, what is the percentage of the plagiarism should be suggestible for a good quality journal? And I have one doubt also, sir. Depending on there are some free software tools are there, sir, SEO tools like that, tools like so, and Turnitin software is there. There is the plagiarism is some different. I checked that one through Turnitin software and SEO tools, but there is a difference in the plagiarism similarity percentage. Then which is better, sir? Just that is.
Okay.
Okay. Sir.
Thank you. Good question. See, I would say, well, try to be as low as possible. Don't, as I mentioned the same thing to someone who asked the same question, don't try to look into the limit, the maximum. As I mentioned, IEEE GRSL has 30% of similarity. Of course, when you have 30% or more, it will raise a flag, but sometimes it means nothing, but sometimes it is really, really drastic. Try to be as minimum as possible, zero better. So the idea is that these softwares, well, again, I'm telling you, as I said in my earlier talk, they all use machine learning techniques. Okay, so there are some other some techniques that they use to find out this similarity. And obviously they use different kinds of algorithms which will give you different kinds of results. I know about it. But there are standard, some of them which are standard. I use most of the time Turnitin because that I have from IIT. I use and I have with all my students, they use Turnitin and it fairly does a good job, I would say. So I tell them to the students, try to be less than 10% because whichever software the journal uses, even if that is there, it will not, let's say, go beyond their limit. So that you are safe kind of thing. But the slower it is, the better. Try to be less than 10% for sure, I would say. Some journal I can tell you, Elsevier, they are very, very strict. They are, I do not know how much, but they are around 15, 18%, sometimes also 20. But but very careful with that. Try to be low. But I would ask you another question is, why do you want to know about this plagiarism percentage? Do you have a fear that whatever you write will be looked as a plagiarism? This is a question to you, Lakshmi. Yes.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why this question comes to your mind?
Why means, actually, I wrote some papers, sir. I'm doing PhD in image processing. But in the terminology about image processing, and when writing the theoretical, what we call technology, there is no problem, sir. Interaction part, I got so much similarity between from other papers, sir.
Similarity in what? Similarity in the sentences.
Sentences, that is techniques, sir. In then literature survey and in
introduction. Not techniques. I'm talking about not techniques, but there is similarity in what your sentences and the sentences what is there in the literature. That's what you want to say.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't do that. What is your mother tongue?
Sir, actually Telugu.
Telugu. So what do you do? You first write in Telugu. Can you write that, your paper in Telugu? Is it possible? At least Telugu, English mix. Can you write it?
English, okay, sir.
No, don't English. Telugu, English mix, whatever you can, and write in bullet points. Can you do that? Try this. Write in bullet points, write in Telugu. Okay. Show it to, if you have your grandmother, you show it to her. She will understand because it's okay. So try to do different practices. Write in Telugu, write in bullet points. Okay. Then try to translate as simple as possible. Use those simple words which you would like others to tell you in that. Then you see that you do not need any software. I'm telling you. Okay. Try different things. Try to write these bullet points in Telugu. Show it to an elderly person, very elderly person in your family. Let he or she tells you what you have written, or is your PhD making a sense or not, something like that. So at least something you will get some comments. What is this? Why are you doing it? Something like that. Let it come. Okay, take those comments. That means that will give you more ideas of how to put those things. And believe me, if you can make understand an elderly person in your house what you are doing, you can make it to the world. No problem.
Yes, sir.
So
Okay,
try
sir.
very simple techniques. Don't
Sir,
worry
thank
about
you.
plagiarism. This will not be there. As long as you don't worry about it, it will not be there.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sneha. And are there any other questions from other participants? If you have, please put it. Otherwise, is there anything? Anybody?
Yeah, I have a question, sir. It's
Yeah,
not
please.
like, so actually, like when we write the reference, like when we see these foreign authors, their name like second and in some Chinese name, it may come also 3 or 4 names will be there for a person like Chiang Kung King, right? So can you,
Can you please repeat the question? I
yes,
missed
yes.
it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we write the reference or when we write the author reference in the inside of the running text or in the reference, so
Yes.
generally we use their second name in the first and followed by their first name, right, sir?
No. Okay. So okay, you want to say how do you write it?
Look, right. When we write the author name in the reference, so we follow some kind of method like using their initial or putting their second name in the first and their first name in the as a second, right? So like when we see the people from other countries, how we can identify easily this is the second name, this has to come in the first, and this is the first name of the person, we have to put it in the second.
Okay, you are asking me how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I will ask you a question. In
Yeah.
which software or which editor do you use to write your papers?
No, I use MS Office, sir. In
Okay,
MS Office direct.
don't use it.
Yeah.
Don't use it. Use LaTeX.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
You know how to use LaTeX?
No, I do not know, sir. I have
Okay,
to.
learn LaTeX.
Okay.
Microsoft Word is not good for scientific writing.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, if you want to write a story, maybe it's fine, but not a technical thing.
Okay.
So I would not recommend to utilize something which is for technical writing. Use LaTeX.
Okay.
Okay, and use the BibTeX as a bibliography. Okay.
Okay.
And when you use LaTeX, you can
Okay.
write depending upon the what they call as the class. You can write the references as site or site P. You will see how it can be. In that way, you don't have to bother about that because it automatically takes it.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So switch to LaTeX.
Okay.
Switch to LaTeX. Use what is called as the BibTeX, the bibliography.
Okay.
Okay, and use the use package over there in the BibTeX and use the bibliography as a reference.
Okay. 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 Thank you so much.
That will make your life much more simpler. Okay, so
Okay.
you don't have to worry. A foreigner is by name XYZ and something you
Yeah.
don't care. You just put the command. In that way, it will automatically take as it is there in the BibTeX, and the BibTeX entry will come from the citation which is there in the paper. So if the paper where people have wrote it wrongly, it will be there wrong. But I mean, we believe that they have written it rightly. So everything will be proper. You don't have to worry about their first name, last name, all this.
If you don't mind, can you clearly spell that software, the BTech something you
You would use LaTeX, LaTeX.
Okay.
And in that you have to use the file where you will have the entry of the references called a BibTeX. When you utilize LaTeX, you will know how to use it. It's simple.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay.
But use
Thank
LaTeX for your papers. That's
okay.
easy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So any other questions?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
are you? Sir, this is regarding journal response time, like which we don't have any control over that. What can we do? Like sometimes we have come up with a very novel idea, and if the journal is responding very late, like after many months, the idea may get outdated, right? And if the paper gets rejected, then we have to submit it to some other journal, right? So by the time the idea may get outdated. So what can as authors, what possibility that we can have to prevent that kind of things?
Well, it's simple. Dimple, even I don't have control over that because, well, see, I am just managing, and people who are there doing it are all doing it on a voluntary service. I understand that, yes, it's whatever you have mentioned is totally. I agree with you. Point to point, I agree with you. Yes, this is problem. I try to reach out to the associate editors. I get often emails, and as I am talking to you, I have can see my mailbox, which is full of requests. When can I know the decision? I get it every day and morning. So this is very common, and I understand that people are indifferent. Some people want because of their students and so on. I try to reach out to the associate editors and the reviewers in whatever way I can to make things faster to get done. But believe me, sometimes it is just not possible to move some people. So I would suggest. I have a paper in my own journal, which is for the last 3 or 4 months. I know, but what can I do? So it is my own papers are handled by the editor in chief of TGRS. So he's my very good friend, but we are at the end. We are all doing it for the journal. So it happens. I mean, it's not only for my paper I'm telling you, it's happened for many people. So I would say the idea is that, well, if you think that it is getting too late, the idea is very new, and it will be because of the delay you will lose publication and it will come thing. So you can request the last option.
Yeah.
You can wait. The last option will be to request the editor in chief you want to withdraw. You withdraw it, and then you submit it to some other journal. Without withdrawing, don't do that. So it is because otherwise it is something like double duplicate submission.
Okay.
So this is the last option, is that you can withdraw it and submit it to some other journal, because since it is not moving at all in the journal, in the first journal, that's the last option I can say.
Okay, sir. Another thing is that there is this special issue for conferences, right? Like if we submit in the special issue for conference, there is a special issue journal for conferences, right?
Yes.
So, and it gets rejected, will it actually then if there is an option for reject and resubmit, will it actually go to the journal directly, or it is going to the conference again? Like if we are given a provision to resubmit.
Okay, good point. Yes, in some of the special issues, they do it in such a way that because there's a link always that you don't see, but we see that internally. When it says that there's a reject and resubmit, it is always said that this paper had the theme which is the special issue. Okay, so what happens is, when you have a reject and resubmit, so you again resubmit it, the editor in chief sees that there was a link with this one. So if it is a reject and a resubmit, okay, if it is totally a reject, then this link is lost. So
Okay.
if there's a reject and resubmit, then this link is still kept. So when you resubmit it back, the editor in chief can always see that there was this paper which was for the special issue. Then the editor in chief will send it to those associate editors for the special issue.
Okay, so that is considered as part of the conference, right?
Yeah, the conference special issue. That's what you're asking me.
Oh, that means we have to present for the conference and do the
Yes.
thing.
Oh, you are saying that. So if you are sending it a paper for the special issue, then some of them are very strict. I can tell you some of them are very strict, which says that your journal paper, if you are submitting to a special issue, then your paper, the journal paper, should cite your conference paper. Okay.
Okay.
This is a must for some special issue. But some special issue don't mind. They say even if you are submitting without referring to a paper which was there in the conference or not, doesn't matter. So it is okay. But some of them, or most of them, says that if you are submitting to a special issue X, then the journal paper should somewhere cite the paper which you had in the conference.
Okay. So that will be considered as part of the conference special issue, right?
Yeah, special issue is a journal special issue. Conference special issue comes as a journal after the conference.
Okay, okay. Like we need not be presented in the conference. That option is.
As I said, sometimes they don't mind that maybe the paper was not there at all in the conference. It doesn't matter. But sometimes they are very strict. Say that it has to be there in the conference. Otherwise, we cannot accept it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So, Karthi?
Yes.
Last question. Yeah. Quickly.
Good evening, sir. I have one question. Regarding literature review, when we write for a paper, like how many years back do we need to refer, sir?
How many years back? Well, it's a good question. Well, I would say, for example, it depends upon your development in your field. Okay, so if your field is so rapidly developed, okay, then you may not go. For example, let's say I am writing a paper in radar polarimetry or in my field, and I am putting the work is such that I need to go to the beginning of radar polarimetry. So let's say I could go around 60. 960 is okay. Beyond, I mean, before that doesn't make any sense because that was the starting point. If I really have to go. But if, for example, if I writing a radar remote sensing application to machine learning, then maybe this machine learning is so rapid in its thing that means maybe 5 years down the line or 5 years previous paper that is still okay. I mean, I do not have to go beyond that. So it depends upon how, where do, as I mentioned in my slide, where are you placing your research? So it is very important to place your research in the context and how far can you go, because it doesn't make sense to go to 1960 and start writing from AI. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, of course, it starts with AI and you write neural network and then come back. No, it is much. So if you are writing something on deep learning utilizing SAR data, then whatever is there, I don't know, 5 years down the line, it's okay. 5 years, 6 years is fine. Don't have to go beyond that. So it's up to you. Exactly what I mentioned is how do you place your work in the context of the state of the art. Okay, so that is what you need to judge, but the idea is based on that it depends upon the maturity or the rapidness in which your things are growing. If it is very rapid, well, few years back is fine. If it is a constant growth over year with many different things going on in a broader sense, then maybe you need to go a little bit more, because what you are mentioning in that paper requires something which should go back maybe, I don't know, 60 or something. Sometimes I write paper which goes back to 60, but not all of them.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, then I think Professor Avik, they have been, extremely strong response. That is an excellent, and everyone is requesting sharing your PPT.
Sure, no problem. I will send it to you, all of you. I mean, I send it to Professor Rao. You can distribute it.
Yeah, I can upload in that. Right, that I can. And right, Jayati.
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
Jayati.
Thank you, Bhattacharya, sir. Your whole, yes, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead with that.
Yes, sir. Sir, your discussion was indeed very, very helpful, and we are very, very grateful to you for your detailed and elaborate explanation on all the steps, and the advices you gave would be very, very helpful for the teachers as well as their students. So let me just read a few points which we got on this lecture by you. The very simple and very clear, very, very informative, very nice session.
seems to be our connection would have lost. Okay, I continue. So, yeah, Professor, actually it has been an excellent session, right from beginning, what's the publication, why would be doing, and various, components of it, and how to take care. And also most important thing, which are not visible on any published, text of any journal pages, what are the important considerations, which are all, things that we only can get orally from the persons for first hand. And it's really, thank very much that you
Thank
share
you.
detail with us. And it's a kind of, guidance for every one of the participant and to us as well. And we really appreciate the concern that you have taken to explain to us the various intricacies and also the things that we should be aware of everything. And really, it's a great benefit for all the participants to have this kind of session. And overwhelmingly, they say that this is one thing I could say all of them are in the same time and hardly any missing. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you for your concern, and really, heartening for us that you are
Thank
kind
you.
enough for sparing your time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we look forward to
Before I close, I thank the participants, and I would like to just know any one of you have published in IEEE journal except Professor Rao, except Professor him, others who are students, and of course I do not know. I mean, have you published in IEEE journals? I can raise your hand or something.
So in IEEE conference proceedings,
Good.
one of
In
my
journals?
paper got published.
Okay, so and you can just unmute and you can say no problem.
Sir, I have not published any journal in IEEE, but published in Elsevier and Springers.
Very good.
As you told that always we are facing that type of fear to publish in IEEE, especially geosciences and transaction. I will try.
Don't be afraid. Don't be. Please, don't be afraid. You can do wonderful work what others are doing, and you can do better. I can guarantee that.
Yeah,
so I request
all
of you, please. I mean, first of all, I know you people are doing excellent research under the guidance of your whoever is the PhD students under your guidance. I know some students are Professor Ramarao students, and I know their level of research. So I please all of you try to publish in journals, try to write a good paper, try to first do a good research, of course, that you are already doing, but just write and submit, because that will be important in the long run. Okay, so if you need any help, please do let me know. Professor Ramarao or Professor Ramarao, me or him, will try to help in whatever way, but I would like to see the community growing and publishing more. I can tell you I'm very happy to see that I get a lot of papers from India. I will not tell the names, of course, but I get a lot of papers from India, and I'm very, very happy. Wonderful research, wonderfully written papers. Well, some of them get through, some of them not, unfortunately, but again, they are revised and they come back again. And I'm very, very happy to see that. And this is growing every day. And I can tell you that this is growing every day. Yes.
IEEE journals all are paid or?
Yes, they have an article processing charge. Some of them are open access, some of them have an article processing charge. IEEE GRSL have an article processing charge of 2 pages of $230 if you are a member of IEEE. But the 3 pages are free. All of them have an article processing charge. Okay. Thank you very much for your patience and listening to me. And I enjoyed the interaction session. That was very important. I got really, really good questions, which actually will help me maybe in the long run, because that is what I'm looking for always. If you have any comments, you can just share that with Professor Rao, and I can get hold of that. But in any other cases, if I am of any help, please let me know. I'll be very happy to help. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramarao, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure. Of course, I cannot come to IST, but soon I will come sometime. When
No,
this,
definitely we will be waiting
yeah,
for the
I love the
you know,
place.
this environment of Corona easing, and definitely we will be after
Sure,
you.
sure,
Thank
sure.
you very much.
Thank you very much. All the
Thank
best.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, dear participant, there is a change for tomorrow morning. Actually, Professor Sanjay Goyal, who is supposed to take the sessions on university teaching tomorrow, unfortunately, I think he is sick, not well, really. So he could not able to handle it. But for that, we have alternative made. In fact, we have got another very distinguished speaker, Professor Saroj Mehar. He is from ISI Bangalore and machine learning and also granular computing. He has also been one of the very prolific writers of these IEEE journals and also holding several US patents, much more from this computation and a different wider field. So it's very generic that it applies to many people to have similarity. That will be the first session that we have. And the second session after that will be 10 to 11. And after that, we'll have a session again with our relaxation, Sri Anand Narayan. This time would be a mixture of both time management or mind management, emotions, and also some practical yoga techniques that we can do while we're in office. So those things are there for us first half for tomorrow. So I apologize for last minute change, but this is the situation that forced us to. But nevertheless, the things are really very good that we got in the note in a very short time to find a very another distinguished speaker. And I thank you for your all patience and attendance today. And we will meet again tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, Jayati. Thank you very much. And we'll meet tomorrow.
Yes, sir.